Sunday is Mother's Day. It's a well-loved holiday among men and women alike because we all had mothers, and most of us either are mothers or are married to one. It's a safe celebration because we're glorifying an aspect of womanhood that everyone understands and approves of. What sometimes gets swept under the rug in all the fervor of honoring our mothers is that motherhood is only a small portion of a woman's existence. She's many other things, but we don't usually even acknowledge them, much less celebrate them. Having children and grandchildren has brought me an incredible amount of joy, but I would hate to think that anyone would see me only as someone's mother and someone's grandmother. Those roles added to me as a person, but they didn't make me a person. Men who are fathers usually enjoy being fathers, but certainly don't see their fatherhood as their only or even primary role in life. Women, however, are still often looked down on if we say, yes, we want to be mothers, but we also want to be more. Our society is moving away from women being defined by bearing and raising children, but the process is happening very slowly and at a great cost. What is amazing is that women were originally put into the position of taking a back seat to men and children by organized religion. And it is organized religion that is still the greatest contributor to keeping women's choices narrower than men's. In early Judaism, men thanked God daily that they were not born women, and Orthodox men still do. A woman had no role at the synagogue and did not participate in the service. If she insisted on attending, she was put behind a curtain where she could babysit without interfering with what the men were doing. Her role at home was better, but not much. A woman's job was to do what was needed to be done for the comfort of others, but her husband made all the decisions that affected the family. While men have always claimed that state of affairs was based on Scripture, I find it impossible to locate any scripture indicating that God ordained women to be subservient to men. In the first chapter of Genesis, it says, "And God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him, male and female created he them, and God blessed them." God created men and women in his image and blessed them both. That sounds pretty equal to me. But as soon as Adam took over in chapter 2, things started going downhill. Adam said of Eve, "This is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man." Unfortunately, Adam has been pulling rank ever since he said that. Eve may have been created out of Adam's rib, but Adam himself was created out of a handful of dust. Does that give him the right to see himself as superior to women for the rest of eternity? With the advent of Christianity, things got even worse. Instead of just ignoring the rights of women to be equal, the early Christians made the inferiority of women gospel. The Apostle Paul wrote that women were to be submissive to their husbands and fathers, they were not to speak in church, and they were to cover their heads as a sign of man's authority over them. A few thousand years later, life for women is changing in the home as well as in the workplace, but it's not changing enough. Women are still often not paid as well as men for doing the same work, and they're not given the same opportunities to advance. In researching an article I wrote for a woman's magazine in the mid-1990s, I consulted Standard & Poor's Register of Directors and Executives of American companies and found that at that time only 13.6 of America's executives were women. That's an appalling statistic for this day and age. I would guess that if I did the same research now, the statistic probably wouldn't be a whole lot better. The University of Pittsburgh's medical school has a female enrollment of approximately 50%, but our local hospitals only report 8 to 10% of their medical staff being female. Where are the other 40% of our female med school graduates? In the area of religion, women are faring even worse. The Reform branch of Judaism is the only one that will ordain women, but Rabbi Sarah Perman says women are usually only hired to head small congregations. The large ones almost always hire a man. It's also interesting to note that marriages and conversions are officiated over by a female rabbi are not recognized as valid if the parties emigrate to Israel. If a female rabbi officiates over someone's funeral, do they decide in Israel that the deceased isn't really dead? In Christianity, the position on ordaining women is widely varied. Pope John Paul issued an apology to women denouncing the way the Catholic Church has treated them, but he continued to refuse to ordain women as priests, so what good was his apology? Pittsburgh Theological Seminary, a school for Protestant Christian pastors, has a female enrollment of approximately 50%, but most of the denominations that ordain women report that only 15% of their pastors are women. The message these churches are silently imparting is, we'll ordain you, but don't ask us to hire you. A cigarette commercial aimed at women once proclaimed, "You've come a long way, baby." That's true, we have, but we still have an awful long way to go. As of this year, there are more single women in America than married ones. It's a sad commentary on our times that the only sure way for a woman to ensure self-determination is to remain unmarried. Ultimately, I think it will be mothers who are responsible for women achieving true equality. Mothers need to do more than just love and nurture their children. They need to teach them that every one of us, male and female, is a child of God and deserving of equal rights and equal opportunities in God's world. Mothers need to teach their daughters that they are as talented and intelligent as any man, and teach their sons that no woman should ever be looked down on simply because she happened to be born female. When the day comes that a little girl can grow up without ever once hearing someone say, "You can't do that, you're a girl," then we will have far more to celebrate on Mother's Day than we do right now.